Okay, so if you've been trying to navigate modern dating lately and it feels, I don't know, less like a smooth ride and more like you're just being tossed around in some kind of chaotic storm.
Yeah.
Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed by just the endless swiping, or exhausted by all the confusing signals you get, frustrated by ghosting, that's a big one, or maybe just emotionally drained by the whole thing. It's so unpredictable. Well, this deep dive is definitely for you.
Mm-hmm.
What if the map you need, to find calmer waters and maybe more meaningful connections isn't actually in the latest dating trends, but it's hidden in wisdom that's like thousands of years old?
It sounds a bit weird, right? Counterintuitive. We tend to think of things like dating apps and hookup culture, this paradox of having infinite choice.
Mm-hmm.
We see those as very modern issues. And well, they are, in the way they look now.
Right, this specific form.
Exactly. But the underlying human stuff, the desire for connection, the pain when you get rejected, searching for meaning in relationships, struggling with our own emotions, I mean, that's ancient. That's just being human.
Totally. So, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing what we always try to do. We're cracking open our sources. Specifically, we're pulling insights from a text called Ancient Philosophy on Modern Love and Dating.
Ooh, sounds promising.
Yeah, we're going to explore how thinkers from, ancient Greece, Rome, the East, how they grappled with these big questions about love and virtue and how to build a good life with other people.
And our mission here really is to filter through all these timeless ideas and pull out the most valuable, the most actionable insights for right now. We want to see how these ancient views on love, ethics, emotional control, how they speak directly to the challenges and maybe the opportunities that you face in dating today.
Yeah, strip away the surface stuff.
Exactly. Get down to the foundational principles.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start where our source material kind of begins, looking at the problem itself, what the source calls the turbulence of modern dating. And you probably know this feeling, right? You've likely lived it. It can just feel overwhelming, confusing, honestly pretty disillusioning sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And the source doesn't just name the feeling. It actually points to specific things in modern dating that feed into this chaos. Like, think about swipe culture.
Uh-huh.
What is that?
Yeah.
It's often just this super rapid evaluation, right? Based on a few pictures, maybe a short bio. The source highlights how this immediately raises questions about, well, superficiality. Are you really getting to know a person? Or just their, carefully crafted digital front?
Their highlight reel.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just get stuck on that first, shallowest level of attraction.
And that superficiality, maybe it paves the way for things like ghosting, which the source also calls out.
Oh, absolutely.
You connect with someone, you have what feels like a promising chat, maybe even a couple of dates. You start to build a little hope, maybe some expectation, and then boom, silence.
Nothing.
No explanation, no closure. And the source really notes that profound lack of accountability in ghosting and the emotional toll it takes. It leaves you feeling confused, maybe questioning yourself, like, what did I do wrong? Or just feeling discarded.
Right. And the impact isn't just that immediate hurt, it's how it builds up over time.
Yeah.
The source talks about the sheer emotional burnout that so many people feel.
Yeah.
It's the effort, right?
Yeah.
Crafting profiles, starting conversations, going on dates, facing rejection or disappointment, and then having to gear up and do it all again. It's just draining.
It really is. And the source connects this to bigger shifts in society, too.
Oh.
Like questions around commitment. They seem more complicated now, don't they? With this perception of endless options just a swipe away, does that make people, I don't know, more hesitant to actually commit? Or maybe more likely to keep looking for the next best thing?
The grass is always greener syndrome. Yeah.
Exactly. And the source contrasts modern hookup culture with how the ancients often viewed relationships, suggesting that focusing purely on physical intimacy without that deeper connection or shared values feels fundamentally different from how they often thought about love and partnership.
Totally different focus. And the dating apps themselves, the source, kind of pushes us to ask, do they really help us move beyond the profile? Beyond that first impression, to really understand someone's character, their mind, their values?
Or do they keep us stuck there?
Or do they, maybe even by design, keep us focused right on the surface?
Yeah. These aren't just small annoyances, are they? They're experiences that really hit home for people dating today. The source frames them as universal in that lots of people experience them, but it also acknowledges they feel particularly difficult now.
Right.
And it links that difficulty to just the sheer volume of information and options we have. That paradox of choice, where having too many options can feel paralyzing or actually lead to less satisfying choices in the end.
Well said. The technology is new, absolutely. The scale is massive, unprecedented.
Yeah.
But the underlying human struggles, searching for connection, being scared of vulnerability, managing expectations and disappointment. Those are ancient struggles.
Mhm.
And that's why turning to ancient philosophy isn't just some, academic thing. It's looking for timeless wisdom we can actually apply to these very current problems. How did people handle love and disappointment and building real bonds before we had algorithms and swipe rates?
Okay, so let's dive into the first big area our source material explores. Greek philosophy, and specifically this view of love as like a path towards virtue and personal growth.
Right.
And when you talk about ancient Greek ideas on love, I guess you have to start with the big one, Plato.
Ah, Plato, yeah.
Yeah.
He's often kind of misunderstood today, isn't he?
Yeah.
Sometimes people talk about platonic relationships, meaning non-sexual, or they bring up the idea of soulmates.
Right, finding your other half.
Exactly. But as our source points out, Plato's actual view on soulmates, especially in his work, The Symposium, it's quite different from that modern romantic idea of finding your one predestined perfect match.
Okay, how so? What did Plato, or maybe it was Diotima speaking through Plato, what did they actually suggest?
So in The Symposium, Diotima describes eros, which we usually translate as love, but it's broader than just romance. It's this powerful, almost divine force that motivates us. It's a longing, a drive towards what's good, what's beautiful, and ultimately towards the kind of immortality, maybe through creating beautiful things or ideas or even children.
Okay.
And she describes this journey as an ascent, like climbing a ladder, the ladder of love.
The famous ladder. Okay, walk us through the steps. Where does it start?
It starts, well, pretty much where most romantic sparks begin. Physical attraction. You appreciate the beauty in one specific person, their looks, their body.
Makes sense.
But crucially, this is just the very first, lowest rung on the ladder. The drive of eros, if you direct it properly, doesn't just stop there. The next step up is to recognize and appreciate physical beauty in all people. You move from admiring one beautiful person to understanding the concept of physical beauty itself.
Okay, so it's not just obsessed with one person's face, but seeing beauty more broadly.
Exactly, into broadening out. And from there, you climb higher. The desire for beauty shifts from the physical body to the beauty of minds or souls. You start to appreciate someone for their intelligence, their character, their virtues.
That feels more like what people say they want in a long-term partner, right? The inner beauty.
It definitely does. But Plato's ladder, or Diotima's, goes even higher still. From appreciating individual beautiful souls, you move to appreciating the beauty of laws and institutions, the things that create order and harmony and goodness in society.
Wow, okay, so from people to, like, social structures.
Yeah, and beyond that, to appreciating the beauty of knowledge and understanding itself, the sheer beauty of discovering truth.
That's a big leap, from finding someone attractive to contemplating abstract knowledge.
It really is. And the final, highest step on this ladder is the contemplation and love of pure beauty itself, the ultimate form of the beautiful, which Plato connects very closely with the form of the good. This isn't a physical thing anymore. It's absolute, eternal, perfect beauty and goodness. That's the ultimate goal of eros, a love for divine truth, wisdom, and virtue itself.
Wow. Okay. So Plato's idea of love, which might start with physical attraction, is fundamentally this philosophical, almost spiritual journey. It's supposed to lead you towards wisdom and the highest good.
Exactly.
So it's not just about finding a partner to, settle down with. It's about using that energy, that attraction, as fuel for your own personal transformation.
Precisely. The source really emphasizes this. Plato saw love as a transformative pursuit, not just a hunt for a static match. The goal is growth, personal evolution, leading towards higher understanding and virtue. And that's why the modern soulmate idea, finding someone who completes you, your predestined other half, it doesn't quite fit Plato. For Plato, love helps you become more complete, more virtuous by driving you up that ladder.
This gives us a really powerful way to look at modern dating, doesn't it? The source pulls out a clear tactical insight here. Plato seems to be suggesting that real, authentic, romantic relationships aren't just about finding comfort or, connection. They should actively help us evolve intellectually and spiritually.
Yeah, it really challenges us. It makes you ask, what does it mean to love someone, not just for who they are right now, but for who they inspire you to become?
Yeah.
And are you doing that for them?
Right.
How can you shift your whole mindset about dating from being this passive search for some ideal person who already exists to seeing it as an active pursuit of mutual growth, getting better together, and understanding the good life more deeply?
That's a huge shift in focus. It goes from just evaluating someone else externally, are they good enough for me, to something more internal and relational. Does this connection actually help both of us grow? And, the source kind of invites us to speculate here. Could swiping on dating apps, maybe in a very generous reading, be seen as a sort of flawed starting point on a modern ladder? Or does the whole design, the focus on images, quick judgments, the endless supply, does it actually prevent us from climbing? Does it keep us stuck on that first superficial rung of just physical attraction?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If the platform itself encourages only that shallow look, that rapid turnover, it seems to work against that focused, upward energy of platonic arrows.
Yeah.
Climbing the ladder requires thinking, contemplation, a real effort to look deeper, to move from the specific person to the universal idea, from body to soul to these abstract forms. If you're just constantly presented with an endless stream of faces and bodies, well, it's hard to find the motivation or even the mechanism to start climbing.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, so Plato gives us love as this transformative journey towards higher ideals. Then our source moves to his most famous student, Aristotle, who brings maybe a different perspective, perhaps more grounded, but just as profound.
Yes, Aristotle. Particularly in his Nicomachean Ethics. He puts a huge emphasis on friendship as like the bedrock of a good life. And his core idea, which our source highlights, is that romantic partnerships, especially marriage, should really be the highest, most complete form of friendship. And it's built on mutual virtue and admiration.
Right, he had those specific categories of friendship, didn't he?
He did. He identified three main types. First, you've got friendships of utility.
Okay.
These are based purely on mutual benefit. You're friends because you get something useful out of it. Think maybe colleagues who help each other get ahead, or purely networking connections. They're temporary, they only last as long as the benefit is there for both people.
Got it. Utilitarian, what's next?
Then there are friendships of pleasure. These are based on mutual enjoyment. You hang out because it's fun, you share hobbies, you just enjoy each other's company in the moment.
Like party friends, maybe?
Yeah, or someone you only meet up with for one specific fun activity. These are also usually temporary. They last only as long as that shared pleasure continues, or as long as you both find each other pleasant.
Oh, both of those sound like they could easily describe some connections people make through dating apps, especially maybe casual dating or hookups.
Exactly. And that's a point the source definitely comes back to when it compares ancient and modern views later on. But Aristotle's third type, that's the highest form. Friendships of virtue.
Okay.
These are based on a mutual admiration for the other person's character. You love your friend for who they are, for their inherent goodness and virtue, not just for what they do for you or how much fun they are, although those things might be there too.
So you genuinely respect and admire their character, their value.
Yes.
Yeah.
And crucially, in a friendship of virtue, both people are actively trying to live a good life, what Aristotle called eudaimonia, human flourishing, and they actively help each other in that pursuit. They genuinely want what's best for the other person, for the other person's own sake. This is the most enduring type of friendship because it's based on something stable character, not on fleeting benefits or feelings.
And Aristotle saw romantic love, specifically marriage, as the peak of this virtue friendship.
He did. He believed the most fulfilling, the most stable romantic partnerships are the ones where both partners are deeply committed to each other's moral and personal development. It's a relationship built on shared core values, deep mutual respect for character, and actively supporting each other in living a virtuous life.
You know, that lines up so strongly with what modern relationship research often finds predicts long-term satisfaction, as the source points out. It's not always about the initial intense chemistry or having tons of shared hobbies. It often comes down to compatible values, mutual respect, and feeling like your partner supports you in being your best self.
Absolutely. And this gives you a really vital tactical insight for your dating life today. How are you evaluating potential partners? Are you mostly focused on that fleeting spark or their appearance or shared hobbies? That's the pleasure utility realm.
Right.
Or are you trying to look deeper? Are
Yeah.
you trying to get a sense of their character, their values, how they treat other people? Do they seem like someone you could build a genuine friendship with based on mutual virtue?
It shifts the question, doesn't it? From just, do I have chemistry with them, to do I admire their character, and could we genuinely help each other lead better, more virtuous lives?
Precisely.
And this is where that contrast with hookup culture becomes really stark, as the source notes.
Oh, absolutely. Hookup culture often operates squarely in those utility and pleasure zones, right? It's often temporary, focused on immediate gratification or maybe convenience, and it lacks that foundation of enduring virtue and mutual ethical growth that Aristotle thought was essential for a deep, meaningful connection. He'd probably see those connections as fundamentally incomplete kinds of human relationships.
Okay, so from the Greeks, we've got Plato's love as a transformative journey towards ideals, and Aristotle's romantic partnership as the highest form of virtue-based friendship. Our source then takes us over to Rome and the Stoics. Now, this philosophy seems particularly well suited for navigating the, let's face it, difficult emotions and the sheer uncertainty of modern dating.
It really does. Roman Stoicism, represented by figures like Seneca, Epictetus, and the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, it provides some incredibly powerful tools for cultivating rationality, resilience, inner peace, mainly by focusing on what's actually within our control.
Okay, let's start with Seneca. What was his perspective on love and relationships?
Well, Seneca, like the other Stoics, believed that our emotions should be guided by reason and virtue, not the other way around. He wasn't arguing against deep connection or being cold, but he strongly cautioned against letting passions, and that includes love, become these irrational forces that destabilize you or make you compromise your principles or lose your autonomy.
So, love wisely, not blindly. Don't get swept away.
That's a good way to put it, precisely. He was all for stable, rational partnerships built on mutual respect, shared values, moral alignment. The tactical insight here for modern dating, which, let's be real, can be an absolute emotional roller coaster
So
again,
true.
is to practice applying reason. When you feel those strong emotions, surging intense excitement, crushing disappointment, jealousy, anxiety, Seneca would tell you to pause. Take a breath. Are you making choices based on that temporary feeling or based on a rational assessment of what aligns with your long-term well-being and your core values? Are you maintaining your sense of self, your independence, even while you desire connection?
That kind of discipline feels incredibly necessary when you're dealing with the speed and unpredictability of, say, online interactions or those early stages of relationship.
Yeah.
And this leads right into Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, whose main teaching is maybe the most directly applicable Stoic idea for all those dating frustrations.
Absolutely. Their core message, you find it all through texts like Epictetus' Enchiridion or Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, is to constantly make this distinction. What is within your control and what is outside of it?
Okay.
What's in your control? Basically, your own thoughts, your judgments, your desires, your aversions, your actions, your inner world. What's not in your control? Almost everything else. Other people's opinions, external events, getting sick, fame, and crucially, for dating, other people's behavior and their reactions.
And the source makes a super clear connection here to the really painful parts of modern dating.
Okay.
Rejection, heartbreak, and maybe especially ghosting.
Yeah, this is where Stoicism offers just immense practical power. You cannot control if someone finds you attractive or interesting. You cannot control if they decide to reply to your message. You cannot control if they choose to just stop communicating without any explanation.
Right.
Those are all external events, actions by other people, firmly outside your sphere of control.
And this is the key, you can control how you react to it.
Exactly, that's the lever you have. Marcus Aurelius was constantly reminding himself to focus on his own inner state, his inner citadel, to maintain his calm and dignity regardless of how others behaved or what chaos was happening externally. The Stoic viewpoint is that your self-worth comes from your own virtue and rationality, from how you choose to live and respond, not from external validation or someone else's approval or lack thereof.
That is such a game changer when you're dealing with the uncertainty and the potential hurt involved in putting yourself out there. If getting ghosted normally sends you into a spiral of self-doubt, or if a rejection feels totally devastating, the Stoic approach gives you a framework to regain your balance.
Right. The tactical insight is this. When disappointment hits, a message goes unanswered, a date doesn't lead to another, you get ghosted. Instead of immediately asking, why did they do this, or what's wrong with me? A Stoic would push you to ask different questions. Questions like, what is my judgment about this event, and how will I choose to react? You could choose to judge ghosting as a catastrophe, as proof that you're unlovable. And that judgment leads directly to suffering. Suffering you've basically inflicted on yourself through that interpretation.
Wow.
Or you could choose to judge it as simply information maybe about the other person's character or their circumstances, which are outside your control anyway. And then you focus on controlling your reaction. You choose not to dwell on it, to maintain your dignity, to recognize their behavior isn't actually a reflection of your inherent worth. And then you decide how you will move forward in line with your own values.
It's about building that inner fortress, that resilience, making sure your emotional stability isn't totally dependent on the volatile, often unpredictable actions of other people in the dating world.
Yeah.
You can't force someone else to be considerate or communicative, but you absolutely can control how much power their lack of consideration has over your inner peace.
Exactly. And think about the enormous amount of mental and emotional energy that frees up. Energy that might otherwise be wasted on anxiety or resentment or self-pity.
Okay, so from the rational, self-controlled approach of the Stoics, our source then takes us east. It explores what traditions like Confucianism and Buddhism offer regarding relationships, commitment, connection. These bring slightly different flavors, maybe focusing more on harmony, duty, compassion, and this idea of letting go of unhealthy attachment.
Right. Confucianism, which has been hugely influential in East Asia, puts really strong emphasis on harmony, social order, duty, and virtue within social structures, and that definitely includes relationships. Love, in this view, isn't just an emotion you feel. It's also significantly a moral commitment. Marriage, historically, was seen as a cornerstone of social stability and a place for ethical development.
What specific virtues are really important within a Confucian relationship?
The source highlights key Confucian virtues like Ren, that's benevolence, humanity, empathy, righteousness or justice, like propriety, ritual, knowing how to act appropriately in situations, wisdom, and excellent trustworthiness. In a strong Confucian partnership, both people are expected to embody these virtues in how they treat each other and everyone else. And they're supposed to actively support each other's moral cultivation, each other's journey towards becoming better people.
So the relationship itself is like a training ground for mutual ethical growth and upholding your duties.
Exactly. It adds this really powerful layer of ethical responsibility and intentional commitment that maybe feels less central in some modern ways of talking about dating.
Yeah.
The source also brings in the concept of yin and yang, which is often associated more with Taoism, but it's present in a lot of Eastern thought and has interpretations relevant to relationships.
Right, the complementary forces.
Yeah. And while historically that was sometimes used to reinforce traditional gender roles, a more modern interpretation, as the source discusses, emphasizes complementary strengths and achieving balance. It suggests partners can share responsibilities based on their individual capabilities and inclinations, working together harmoniously, like those balancing forces.
That reinterpretation feels much more relevant today. So the tactical insight here is pretty significant. Confucianism prompts us to ask, is this potential relationship, or my current one, contributing to a harmonious life? Not just for us as a couple, but in a broader sense. Are we both committed to mutual moral growth? Are we upholding ethical conduct towards each other? And how does that idea of leveraging complementary strengths like yin and yang influence how we think about sharing responsibilities or supporting each other where one is weak and the other is strong?
It really challenges that modern fear of commitment by framing partnership as this profound ethical undertaking, a shared duty almost to foster goodness and harmony.
And thinking about ghosting again, how would Confucianism likely view that behavior?
Oh, it would probably be seen as a pretty serious failure of Ren, that core virtue of benevolence and empathy, and also live propriety or proper conduct.
Right.
It shows a lack of ethical responsibility towards the other person, a failure to handle the ending or the non-starting of a connection with the appropriate moral consideration. Just disappearing. That's not acting properly.
A fundamental ethical lapse in how you relate to another human being. Okay, so now let's turn to Buddhism, which offers a perspective on love that's maybe less about duty and social harmony and more focused on awareness, compassion, and letting go of unhealthy clinging.
Yeah, Buddhism makes this really crucial distinction between what it calls clinging attachment, abhidhana, and true selfless love. Attachment, in the Buddhist sense, is often rooted in ego, in craving, in a fear of loss. It's that anxious neediness, the possessiveness, the feeling that your happiness or your sense of being whole depends entirely on the other person. And this gets mistaken for love all the time in modern culture.
That feeling like, I can't be happy without this person.
Exactly that. And from a Buddhist perspective, that's a major source of suffering, dukkha. True love, in the Buddhist view, often described with terms like metta, loving-kindness, and kalung, compassion, is seen as selfless, generous, understanding, and ultimately freeing for both people involved.
Okay.
The source references teachings from figures like Thich Nhat Hanh, who talks about the 4 elements of true love: Maitri, loving-kindness, the ability to offer joy and happiness; Karuna, compassion, the ability to truly understand and want to ease suffering; Mudita, sympathetic joy, finding genuine happiness in the other person's happiness; and upekkha equanimity, which includes non-attachment, freedom from discrimination, and accepting things as they are, including impermanence.
Those elements, loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity, they sound much broader and more selfless than just romantic attraction or need.
They absolutely are. They emphasize mindfulness, deep empathy, and crucially, emotional independence. A core Buddhist idea is that ultimate happiness comes from within. It's something you cultivate through practices like mindfulness and understanding the true nature of reality, including the fact that everything changes.
Right.
A partner, in this view, is like a fellow traveler on the path, someone you can offer loving kindness and compassion to, and hopefully they offer it back.
Yeah.
But they aren't the source of your own happiness or the destination you need to reach. You don't fundamentally need them to be whole or complete.
Wow. This is incredibly powerful for navigating the emotional demands and maybe the potential for codependency in modern dating. If you find yourself feeling totally lost or empty when you're single, or if you become overly reliant on a partner for validation and happiness, this Buddhist perspective offers a path towards self-sufficiency and inner peace.
The tactical insight here is vital. It prompts you to ask, am I mistaking clinging attachment, that desperate neediness, the jealousy, the fear of being alone, the possessiveness, am I mistaking that for genuine love? Can I practice cultivating those four elements, loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity towards the people I date, even if it becomes clear it's not going to be a long-term romantic thing? Can I approach potential partners with kindness and compassion, even when things get difficult or awkward?
Yeah.
And maybe most importantly, how can I actively cultivate my own inner peace and happiness, upekkha, so that my fundamental well-being isn't solely dependent on someone else's presence or absence or actions in my life?
It offers such a compelling alternative to that cultural narrative that you need to find the one who will somehow complete you.
Exactly.
Instead, it suggests working towards becoming complete within yourself and then seeking a partner with whom you can share that sense of wholeness and walk a path of mutual compassion and understanding.
Well put.
And just to round it out, how would Buddhism likely view ghosting?
Well, much like Confucianism, it would probably be seen as a pretty significant failure of compassion, karuna, and loving kindness, Saitri. It's an action that directly causes unnecessary suffering to another person, and it clearly lacks empathy.
Right.
You could also argue it's rooted in aversion to yuzen. The person ghosting is trying to avoid their own discomfort or difficult emotions by simply disappearing. And avoiding discomfort like that is just another form of unhealthy clinging or attachment.
Okay. So across all these really diverse traditions, we've got the Greek pursuit of virtue and friendship, Roman resilience and reason, Eastern harmony, commitment, and compassionate detachment. We're seeing these recurring themes, aren't we? Themes about the kind of people we should aim to be and the kind of relationships we should try to build, regardless of the specific time period or the technology we're using.
Exactly.
And our source spends some time explicitly drawing these lines, comparing the ancient wisdom directly to those modern dating trends we talked about right at the start.
Yeah, and that's where the ancient really speaks clearly to the now. Like, take hookup culture again. Aristotle and Confucianism offer a pretty direct critique, right? It fundamentally lacks the depth, the focus on shared virtue, the ethical commitment that they saw as essential for truly fulfilling human connection. It mostly exists in that temporary realm of utility or pleasure.
And the Stoics would probably question if it aligns with a rational, virtuous long-term life plan. Is chasing fleeting pleasure, maybe at the expense of building deeper connection, truly rational or conducive to flourishing, to eudaimonia?
Good point. Exactly. All these traditions, though they frame it differently, kind of push back against the idea that relationships, romantic or otherwise, are just disposable or purely for quick gratification. They all advocate for more intentionality and for building things on a foundation of character.
Okay, what about ghosting, bringing that back into the comparison framework?
Well, we saw how Stoicism gives you the internal toolkit to cope with being ghosted. Focus on your reaction, maintain your dignity, don't let someone else's behavior define your worth. That's crucial for resilience.
Right.
But then Confucianism and Buddhism add that moral judgment on the action itself. They view it as a failure of ethical responsibility, a failure of compassion and empathy. So you get this really complete picture. Resilience for the person who was ghosted, and an ethical framework for understanding the behavior itself.
That combined perspective is incredibly valuable. It equips you to both bounce back personally and maintain a clear moral compass about how people should treat each other. And dating apps. How do the ancient thinkers potentially view the tools themselves?
The source suggests they wouldn't see the apps as inherently good or bad. They're just tools. Their value depends entirely on how they're used and what you prioritize while using them.
Hmm.
Plato might see scrolling through profiles as, okay, maybe the lowest rung on his ladder, but he'd immediately challenge you to look deeper. Seek signs of beauty of mind, not just body. Use the platform as a way to potentially find connections that actually foster growth towards virtue.
And Aristotle would insist you have to look beyond the curated profile to try and discern character and virtue. Does their bio, the way they communicate, suggest someone you could actually build a genuine friendship with?
Right. And Confucians would likely approach the apps with the goal of finding someone with whom they could build a relationship based on shared values and ethical commitment, looking for signs of Ren, Yi, Li in how people present themselves and interact.
So the tactical insight across these different traditions seems clear.
Oh,
Use the apps if you want, but use them with intention. Apply these deeper, timeless criteria for connection. Dons get totally lost in the superficiality. Actively try to seek depth.
exactly. Don't let the tool dictate the values.
Finally, the source touches on that often tricky topic of gender roles in relationships. While it fully acknowledges that ancient societies were largely patriarchal, it also highlights that even back then, there were philosophical voices arguing for a more balanced approach.
Yeah, that's important context. Thinkers like the Roman Stoic Musonius Rufus argued pretty compellingly that women should get the same philosophical education as men. Why? Because virtue, the goal of philosophy, is the same for both sexes.
Interesting.
And Plato, in his ideal state outlined in the Republic, even suggested that women who had the right capabilities should be educated alongside men and could hold positions of leadership, even potentially among the philosopher rulers.
So the idea of equality or at least shared capability isn't strictly a modern invention.
Not at all. And that modern interpretation of the yin-yang principle we talked about also supports moving away from rigid gender roles towards a balance of strengths, where partners contribute based on their individual abilities and inclinations, working together harmoniously, regardless of outdated expectations. So the ancient discussion around the capabilities and roles of men and women, it offers valuable historical context and philosophical arguments that can still inform how we navigate dynamics and expectations in modern relationships today, pushing towards partnership based more on mutual respect and shared contribution.
This has been a really rich deep dive, looking across Plato's transformative eros, Aristotle's virtue friendship, Stoic resilience, Confucian ethical commitment, and Buddhist compassionate detachment. There's a powerful, consistent message weaving through all of them, isn't there? A message that directly challenges the chaos we sometimes feel in modern dating.
Absolutely. The consistent message, it really boils down to this. Truly healthy, fulfilling, and enduring connections aren't primarily about chasing fleeting emotions or getting external validation. They're rooted in virtue, in intentionality, and in mutual growth. Love, in this ancient view, isn't just a feeling you stumble into. It's a practice. It's a skill, a discipline you actively cultivate.
Like the source puts it, love is a practice, not just chemistry. And for anyone listening who feels lost or overwhelmed or just plain burned out by the seemingly endless search in modern dating, this timeless wisdom offers a really grounding perspective. It encourages you to shift your focus, move away from all the external noise, the swipes, the likes, the replies, what other people are doing, and turn inward. Focus on cultivating your own character, your own clarity, and being intentional in how you approach connection.
So let's try to synthesize some of those core tactical insights we've talked about. Pull them together as concrete approaches you can actually try to use.
Okay, good idea. First, when emotions run high in dating and they will apply reason, that's your Stoic toolkit. Pause, step back, evaluate the situation and your potential responses rationally. Align them with your values and your long-term well-being, not just how you feel in that moment.
Second, build relationships on the foundation of virtue and friendship. That's Aristotle and Plato chiming in. Look beyond just the surface appeal. Actively seek partners whose character you genuinely admire, who share your core values, and with whom you feel you could build a true friendship based on mutual respect and supporting each other's growth.
Third, cultivate emotional resilience and self-worth that's independent of external validation. This is the combined power of Stoicism and Buddhism. Remember, your value is inherent. It's not determined by whether someone swipes right or texts back or wants a second date. Focus on your inner state, your own virtuous conduct.
Fourth, approach love as a moral commitment and a path for mutual growth. That's pulling from Confucianism and Plato. See relationships not just as sources of personal happiness, but as partnerships where you are both, in a sense, ethically committed to supporting each other's development and contributing positively to each other's lives.
And fifth, Distinguish between true compassionate love and possessive attachment. The Buddhist perspective is so key here. Really examine your feelings. Are they rooted in genuine care and wanting the best for the other person? Or are they coming from neediness, fear of being alone, or a desire to control or possess? Aim for connection based on freedom, not on clinging.
And kind of underlying all of these is that call to just be intentional in your dating choices, in your approach to relationships generally. Don't just drift along reacting to things. Actively decide what kind of connections you truly seek and the kind of partner, and maybe more importantly, the kind of person you aspire to be, informed by these deeper, timeless principles.
So if you're feeling stuck in that endless scroll, maybe trying to consciously prioritize virtue and genuine friendship could help you filter more effectively, find more meaningful connections.
Right.
If the sting of ghosting or rejection is really holding you back, practicing some stoic acceptance and maybe some Buddhist compassion could help you navigate that disappointment with more peace and resilience.
Definitely.
If you're confused about commitment in a world that seems full of infinite options, Confucianism offers that powerful reminder about the value of ethical responsibility and shared growth.
This brings us neatly to our action challenge for you this week. Based on maybe one idea that really resonated with you from this deep dive, what's one small, actionable step you could take?
Okay.
Maybe it's deciding that the next time a message goes unanswered, you'll consciously apply that stoic principle. You'll focus on managing your reaction, maintaining your inner calm, rather than letting anxiety or speculation take over.
Or perhaps before your next date, or even just when you're swiping, you could take a moment to think about those virtues Aristotle valued, like honesty, courage, kindness, and consciously try to look for signs of those qualities in potential partners. Maybe ask different kinds of questions than you usually would.
Or it could be even simpler. Maybe it's just practicing a brief moment of Buddhist loving kindness towards someone you recently dated, where things didn't work out. Just mentally wishing them well, even though the connection didn't go where you might have hoped. Choose one idea, however small it seems, and just experiment with applying it in your dating life this week. See how it feels.
We've really seen today how ancient philosophy, far from being some dusty, irrelevant history, offers incredibly powerful, practical, and tactical ways to approach the often confusing, sometimes frustrating world of modern love and dating. It helps redirect our focus, moving it away from the overwhelming external chaos and towards cultivating our own internal wisdom, virtue, and intentional connection.
It really underscores that the fundamental building blocks of a truly fulfilling connection, things like character, intention, mutual growth, compassion, resilience, these are constants. They transcend whatever technology or cultural trends are happening around us.
And that leaves us with this final provocative thought for you to mull over this week. If love, as these diverse ancient traditions suggest, is fundamentally a practice of cultivating virtue and fostering mutual growth, how does that change the way you define success or failure in your own dating life?
Good question.
Is success solely about finding one specific person? Or could success also be found in the person you become through the practice and the lessons you learn while seeking connection, regardless of the specific relationship outcomes?
Hopefully, this deep dive has equipped you with some powerful ancient tools, or at least some new ways of thinking, to help you build more meaningful and resilient connections, both with other people and maybe most importantly, within yourself.